Hello, I am Gaurav Khan Shankar from the Department of Mathematics and Computer Science from the Babu Banarsi Das University, and today in this lecture I am going to take up arrays. First of all, to define an array is a data structure that represents a collection of the same data types. Java treats these arrays as objects. This means array variables are references, not value variables. Why? Because Java treats them as objects. As we already in our previous videos clarified this, that there are two types of variables. First category belongs to primitive data types, and the others are the object data types, or the instances, or what we say references. So the arrays belong to this category. Then individual data items in arrays are called elements, and elements are stored consecutively, that is contiguously in memory, and each element of an array is indexed, that indexing begins at 0. So if there are 10 elements, then the indexing will be from 0 to 9. Thing that needs to be mentioned is first of all that an array can be one-dimensional, two-dimensional, n-dimensional, and all the elements of a particular array are of a single data type. These elements are they form the array, and they have to belong to the same data type. The size of the array is the number of elements that it can hold. Now, array is a data structure that represents a collection of the same data types of data. As you can see in this figure, like there is an array called mylist, and that is of double data type. The declaration of this array is shown as double, then there are two square brackets, and then the name of the array, and which is equal to new double 10. This is one of the syntaxes of the declaration and definition of an array. And what is happening over here is that first of all the data type of the array is mentioned, that is double, and because it is an array, therefore we have to show opening and closing square brackets. Then the name of the variable that holds the array, that is the name of the array, is mentioned, which in this case is mylist, and which is equal to new double 10. That is, it is declared and defined. In fact, defined, whenever we say new, then it means that they are defined. New means that we are going to create an object, and in this case that object is an array. So whenever there is a new keyword encountered during the definition, it means that it is going to create some new object. Whenever a new object is created, whenever the use of new is made, it means that it has to reside on the heap. There are two ways in which the variables can reside in memory. First of all, they can be on the stack, or otherwise they can be on memory, on the heap. That is, the primitive data types variables are stored on the stack, and the reference data type variables are stored on heap. So as we can see in this diagram, that mylist is the array reference variable. Then it holds a reference, that is, mylist will hold a reference to the memory which is allocated by the array, and all the elements reside in that array. So this reference will be stored on the heap, and the data is stored on the stack. Okay. So if we want to figure it out, like we can say that mylist, that is the array 0 is 5.6, and mylist 1 is 4.5. Similarly, mylist 2 is 3.3, and likewise up till mylist 9, that is 11,123. So these are the values, these are the element values. Okay. And if we can say here like array element at index 5, that means that the index specified is 5 and the value stored is 34.33. So how do we declare arrays? We declare arrays by simply writing the data type, then the opening and closing square bracket, and then the array name. This is sufficient for the declaration of the array. But if we want to define it, then we definitely have to supply the new keyword along with the size of the array. We have to specify in advance the size of the array, because we cannot change the size of the array. Okay. So if we want to use some array, then we have to supply the size beforehand. Like, first of all, we are going to discuss about how we declare arrays. In order to simply declare an array, we write the data type of the array, then suffixed by the square brackets and then the name of the array. That is, in our case, is int square brackets space mylist. This mylist is the array. Now there is another syntax which can be used while declaring an array, and it is the change of the placement of the square brackets after the data type and after the variable name. Like in our example, as we discussed now, that the int and the square brackets and then the variable name, this is one of the syntax, and then we can also write int variable name and then the square brackets. Now why is it done? First of all, this the second one, the data type array name square bracket syntax, belongs to the syntax provided by C++. Now the difference, then why did we need int square bracket mylist? This int mylist square bracket is derived from C++, and it is also carried in Java in order to maintain the backward compatibility. Okay, the programmers that know the syntax of C++ will definitely use this syntax. But in case of the above mentioned, what is done is it is updated. Now as we can see, as we already know, that array is a data type, a reference data type. So it is more worthy and more meaningful to mention integer, that is data type, primitive integer data type, and along with the square brackets, it makes it sure to be int array. That is why it is defined to be int square brackets and then the name of the array. Okay. One thing more I'd like to mention over here is that declaring the array does not create it. Okay. Whenever we declare something, in the case of variables also, when we declare a variable, we are not positioning that variable, or we are not creating any value associated with that variable, neither we are going to make any storage for that variable. Same goes with arrays. That is, declaring the array does not create it. No memory is allocated for individual array elements. This requires a separate creation step, which is known as instantiation or defining. Like creating arrays, in the creation of the arrays, we declare and define them. Okay. Like array name is equal to, first of all, if suppose we have declared an array with the name array name, now we instantiate it by using the new keyword. In this case, we have used array name is equal to new data type array size. Okay, here we have just declared the array, that is data type array name or int mylist. This is the declaration, and if we want to define it as well, we will need the new keyword as done in this statement. Like array name is equal to, array name is first declared, then array name is instantiated with the new keyword and the data type and the array size. Okay. In our previous example, we used mylist array, and this mylist array is equal to new double 10. Now this is defined. It is going to take, it's going to have 10 elements, and the indices will be from 0 to 9. So the new keyword creates an object or array. The object or array is created in a location of memory called the heap. The object or array is created in a location of memory called the heap. A reference pointer to the array is assigned via equals to the variable. Now declaring and creating in one step. In the previous example, we discussed and we have seen the declaration and definition of the array in two separate steps, but now we will focus on defining, as you will do most probably, that you will do both those things in a single step. Then how can it be done? It can be done by using the syntax data type square brackets array name is equal to new data type array size. Okay, so in our case, taking the mylist example of the array, double mylist is equal to new double 10. So this will create an array with the name mylist of the data type double, and it will create 10 entries, that is 10 elements starting from 0 to 9, which are known as indices. So the data type array name is equal to new data type array size. Okay. Now what is the length of an array? You guessed it right. The length of the array is the number of elements in the array. And how does Java allow us to know what is the length or use the length property is by providing the property length after a dot of preceded by the array name. That is, once an array is created, its size is fixed, as you have already know. It cannot be changed. The size of the array cannot be changed. It is fixed, and you can find its size if you do not know in advance what, or if you are inside another one's program that you don't know exactly what the size of an array is. In any case, if you want to know the size of the array, then what we do is we use the length property of the variable of the array. That is, in our case, if suppose the name of the array is array refvar, then array refvar dot length will give the length of the array. For example, mylist dot length returns 10. As you have seen this array, it is of size 10 as mentioned over here. Then yes, so mylist dot length returns 10. Now, how do we initialize arrays? Initializing arrays means giving initial values to the arrays or to the elements of the arrays. So we can do that by going through a loop. Then we can do the same thing of giving the values to the array in a single statement. These two things will be discussed. Like using, if we want to use a loop, then for int I is equal to 0, I is less than mylist dot length. Why is it done over here? Because mylist dot we have to traverse throughout all the indices of the array. We want to store some values in the array. So, and how will they be stored? They'll be stored by array 0 having a particular value, array 1 having a particular value, and then up till array 9. If the length is 10, then the length minus 1, that is in the 9th index, what will be stored? It's up to you whatever you want to store. But if we want to follow a loop, then that loop should traverse from 0 to the length of the array minus 1. That is 0 to, if this is my list, it will return 10. So 0 to 9. So this loop will increment its value by 1, and in each statement it will assign some value to that array. If we want to create and initialize in one step, and we already know that with which values we are going to initialize the array, and we want to do that in the single statement without using the loop. And this is beneficial if the array is very small in length. If arrays are of hundreds to thousands of entries, then this is impractical. So what happens over here is that if we want to declare and create and initialize in one step, then we will do like double and mylist is equal to, and we don't have to specify the length then, because it will be automatically assigned by the, it will take the number of elements which can be assigned to that array and will fix the length accordingly. So there's no problem regarding the length. So here we have provided 4 elements. So we if we have provided 4 elements, then these 4 the length of my list will be 4. Okay, so now declaring, creating, initializing, and using the shorthand notation. Okay, we have already seen this statement over here. Now we are again considering this, that double mylist is equal to 1.9, 2.9, 3.4 and 3.5. So these 4 entries are made in the array mylist, and its length will be 4. Okay, so this shorthand notation is equivalent to, what is this statement doing? Actually, this is the amalgamation of at least 4 statements. First being the declaration of the array, that is double mylist. Then this declaration is also accompanied by the definition or the initialization, that is used by the new keyword, and 4 entries are created. Then mylist 0 is assigned 1.9, mylist 1 is assigned 2.9, mylist 2 is assigned 3.4, and mylist 3 is assigned 3.5 value. Okay, so so we have shortened our code, and we have written all these 5 statements into a single statement, that is double mylist is equal to 1.9, 2.9, 3.4 and so on. Okay, now we see some examples, like suppose if you already know what are constants, constants are the values that do not change. Okay, and we define constants with the use of the final keyword. So we can also declare and define an array and provide its length to be, or its size to be, a constant. So if we have defined here as a total number as to be a constant having a value of 6, then int numbers is equal to new int total numbers will also create an array, and it will not generate any kind of error because you have provided its size to be a constant, and that will not it will not create any kind of problem because it is an allowed type of initialization of an array. Now we see what is the memory and what is the structure of the variables that are kept in memory, how they are kept in memory, are they kept in stack or they are kept in the heap. So first of all, there are two kinds of variables, value variables and the reference variables. Okay, values contains actual data, that is integer, float, double, boolean or other primitive data type, and the reference contains a reference, means the pointer to an object of arrays that is located on the heap as a result of using the new operator. Okay, so two different locations of memory, we'll discuss about it in our coming videos. That first of all, there is a frame stack, okay, and the other is the heap. Now the frame stack contains local variables. What are the local variables? Suppose your program scope is within an if statement, or suppose there is a procedure or a function or a method, then the variables declared inside those variables are that scope is known as a local variable. Or suppose inside a loop you have a variable I or a, these variables are called local variables. Okay, and the parameters of methods are also local. So if you are creating a parameter, we have discussed this in our methods in the tutorial in which we discuss methods, that the parameters of the methods, means the arguments to those methods, are also local. And heap contains the objects and arrays. Okay, the new keyword always creates an object or array and places it in the heap. Excuse me. Now here we have declared an array called numbers, which is initialized by a constant total numbers. So it is making an array, and that array is instantiated with the size of total numbers. So on the frame stack, arguments will be there, main frame stack, and on the heap it is still, because we have not instantiated and we have not created with the values, so the heap is blank. Now again, we are using a for loop to in a loop read user input and insert into the array. That is, we are going to read the user supplied values and fill it inside the array. And we have also used the length property to decide when to end the loop. First of all, you have created an array, and to be the empty array, to be more precise, you don't have any values, but you are wanting to fill the values by taking input from the user. So what you are going to do, you are going to make a for loop, and inside the for loop you will take input from the user and assign that input one by one to the array, and this loop will go up till the length of the array minus 1. Why? Because it starts with 0. So for int I is equal to 0, I is less than numbers dot length and I plus plus, and system dot out dot print, enter a number. So this will print a screen that will print a statement asking for a number, and whenever that number will be specified, it will take it by the next int function of input. So it will be assigned to the numbers array, as we have created in our previous screen. Okay, so in this way we can create arrays by taking values from the user. Here what we are doing is we are initializing a for loop with I variable to be 0, and it goes up till the length of the array minus 1. Let's suppose its length is 10, and it will go from 0 to 9. These are the valid entries for the indices. And then what will do? It will do that it will print enter a number, and one by one it will take the number input and will assign it to the array index accordingly. Okay, so this is the method by which mostly we fill or populate the arrays, by using a for loop and taking the user entries one by one. So here what what is happening over here is, now as we have already told you, the local variables or the arguments are kept on the frame stack. So args, as we can see, is also the arguments. We don't have any arguments because we are not having any function or method over here, but there are numbers. Now this numbers is the array, this is the name of the array, and it is kept over here because it is holding the reference to the values that are stored on the heap. That is, suppose in our case 0 to 5 values, they are suppose they are 3, 2, 7, 5, 7, or whatever values, whichever, the whole array itself is stored on the heap, but its reference is kept inside the frame stack. Now this I is a local variable. I is a local variable, and this local variable is, as mentioned before, stored on the frame stack. So no problem. Now suppose this is another example, that suppose we want to take continuously taking input from the user and filling it inside the array, and we want to find the maximum value inside the array or whichever the user has given. So in that case, what we have to do is, we don't have to sort the whole array in order to get the maximum value, because it will increase the complexity. It is not desirable in our situation. So what will we do? We will traverse the array one by one, and we will make first of all, before traversing through the array, we will initialize a max max variable with the first element of the number. Then we will go from, we will make a local variable I that will traverse, that has its value from 1 up till the maximum index of the variable. And then what will we do is, we have initialized max with the first value of the array, first element of the array. Then we will see if there's a, we will continuously loop through this array one by one, and in that process we will check whether this max variable which we have initialized to be of the first index okay. So it will first of all, the 0th index value is assigned with max, and the loop is then carried from 1, that is 0 is already assigned, so we are making the loop from 1 up till the maximum index. And then if the value of max is less than that number, that means that number is bigger than max, so we will have the max value to store the bigger number. So in that way, when we will end up with the looping process of the whole array, then at last we will have the maximum value stored in max variable. So this is the process of getting the maximum number of your maximum or the maximum value in the array. And we can there's another program over here, like if we want to concatenate the array elements like a string. Suppose it is having 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It is array 0 having 1, 1 having 2, 2 having 3. If you want to concatenate all the values of the array, then what we have to do is, we first of all make a string variable output, and that will contain the initial string, that is the array is. Okay, here in our case it is the array is. Then what's happening? We are again traversing. Now we are traversing the array from 0 up till its length -1. If we are taking a less than sign over here, it's not less than equal to, so it will automatically create. It will traverse from 0 to length -1. Okay. So in that case, what we are doing is, we have taken a string, that is the output variable, and it will again and again concatenate with each and every value of the indices or the elements of the array, and it will also concatenate a blank after each entry. Okay, so at last when we will output it, it will the output will be like the array is 1 space 2 space 3 space. Yes. So what are parallel arrays? Parallel arrays are those arrays that have the total number of arrays are more than one, and the the values stored in the various indices as the elements of the arrays are in some collaboration to the other array. Like in this example, as you can see, the number of students measuring are provided in this array, that is 150, 320, 250 and 500, and the subjects or the majors is provided in accounting, finance, CIS, marketing and management. This means that there are two arrays. First of all, a string array that is known as majors, and the other is the integer array known as students. So what is happening over here is this majors array holds the subject in which the student measures, and the number of students measuring are supplied by this array. Okay, so in accounting there are total number of students measuring 150. In finance the total number of students measuring is 300, and so on. So if we want to print a concatenated information from these two arrays, then what we'll do is we will go through a loop, and then because we have this related information in the same index, then we have majors I has students this, so it will print something like this, like accounting has 150 students, finance has 300 students, and likewise. Okay, so we have seen how to declare and define an array. We have seen how to declare an array as a separate statement and defining it as a separate statement in the single statement as well. And we have also seen how to traverse the arrays by getting the user input and then populating the arrays through for loops. And we have also seen parallel arrays. Now the thing worth mentioning is multi-dimensional array. Now what is a multi-dimensional array? A multi-dimensional array is a data structure that represents a collection of the same types of data. Like as in single dimensional arrays, we have the data that belongs to the same data type. In the same fashion, multi-dimensional arrays also have data that belong to the same data type. Okay. Now Java treats these arrays as objects. As we all know, the arrays are treated as objects. This means array variables are references, not value variables. Individual data items in arrays are called elements, and elements are stored consecutively, continuously in memory, can vary in size from 2 to n. Now declaring multi-dimensional arrays, how do we declare multi-dimensional arrays? The process is very much similar to single dimensional arrays, but there is a difference that we have another dimension attached with that variable. Like data type, first of all, data type, and there are two ways of declaring multi-dimensional arrays. The data type with two square brackets, with the opening a square bracket, and there's another set of opening and closing square brackets. Then the name of the variable of the array, that is the name of the array. Okay, like for example, int my list, and in the data type and the name of the array is separated by two sets of square brackets. Now another syntax, as was just for the case in the single dimensional arrays, in two dimensional or multi-dimensional arrays also we have two different types of syntaxes. Like the first, that this one is the new one by Java, and this one in which we provide the name first and then the set of square brackets is taken for backward compatibility issues with C++. Okay, and the example lies over here, like int my list and two sets of square brackets. These sets of square brackets grow with the number of dimensions. Like if there is a three-dimensional array, then there will be another set of square brackets. Okay. Now creating multi-dimensional arrays. Array name is equal to, first of all we have declared this array name, as you can see over here, and then we can define it by using array name is equal to new. This new will create space in memory, and how much space, as you are going to specify in the row size and column size. So array name is equal to new data type, and then row size, then column size. That is this is a two-dimensional array first of all. So the first one represents the number of rows, and the second represents the number of columns. Okay, like this example, my list is equal to new double 10 4. Now it will create a two-dimensional array having 10 rows and 4 columns, and the elements that will be inserted will be of double data type. Now as we can see over here that the new keyword creates an object or array. The object or array is created in a location of memory called the heap. a reference pointer to the array is assigned via equal to the variable. Now, as we did in declaring and creating the array, a single dimension array in one step, the same can be done in multi-dimensional also. How can we do this is, first of all, we will provide the data type of the array of the two-dimensional, the multi-dimensional array. Then we'll provide the set of square brackets, and the number of square brackets and the number of sets of square brackets is equal to the number of the dimension of the array. Then we provide the name of the array with then equal to with new keyword, it will allocate it on memory. Then again the data type and row size and column size. Like double, my list is equal to new double 10 3. This will create 10 rows and 3 columns. Okay, and for this data type, which is kept as I told you in C++ for backward compatibility, then data type array name is equal to new data type, row size and column size. This will also function the same way. Now, how do we initialize an n-dimensional array? In our case, it is a two-dimensional array. Then how will we initialize it? As I told you, if there is a two-dimensional array, that means that the first dimension will represent the rows and the second dimension will represent the columns. So, what we did for initializing the array using a one-dimensional array using a for loop, we just traversed from 0 up to the length -1, and then we populated it. Now this population of the array can be done at runtime by getting the user input, or we can supply our own values. Okay, so how can we do that? First of all, one thing is very common in programming, like if you are having a two-dimensional array, then there will be a nesting of 2 for loops. If you are having a 3-dimensional array, then it will have a nesting of 3 for loops. Okay, so as we did in the one-dimensional array, we had a single for loop. Okay, so it is but obvious. Now for int r is equal to, first of all, we are making a two-dimensional array, so the first loop or the outer loop will traverse through the rows. Then for so the first loop or the outer loop will be for the rows, and the inside or the inner of the for loop will be for the column. So for int r is equal to 0, r is less than row. This is the number of row. We are going to keep it the number of rows, suppose 5, then 5 minus 1, that is r is less than 5. Okay, r plus plus, and then inside the outer for loop we'll have another for loop which will traverse from c is equal to 0 to c is less than column. Then it will c plus plus, and then what will be stored is my list rc is equal to some value. And then so first of all, what will be having? It will be having 0th row, 0th column, that is 0 0 is equal to some value, my list 0 0 is equal to some value. Then again this loop will increment itself, so c will become 1, then 0 1, that is 0th row, first column is equal to some value, again c will increment. This will keep incrementing up till the maximum value of the column, minus 1. Then my list row will be again 0, then c will be incremented to 2. Okay, so then first row, that is 0th row, and third column will have some value. So all for the first row will be populated first with all its columns, then r will get incremented to 1, and then the 1th row, 0th row is already got populated. Now 1th row will start with 0th column, first column to second column till the maximum number of columns. So this whole arrangement of for loops will populate the array by row. Okay. Now this is by taking user input. You can take user input and specify some value. By the focus is on providing the nested for loop as initializer for the array. Another method of initializing fixed values, which are not going we are not taking the user input. So what we can do is, if we know already, if we know in advance what values have to be passed on to this array, then what we will do, we will directly put the values. And how will we put the values? Actually, double my list is equal to, first of all, there will be first curly brace will open, and inside this curly brace we have to first provide the first row. First row is 1.9, 2.9. Now individually 1.9 is first column of the first row and 2.9 is the second column of the first row. Then this will be 1.9, 2.9 comprising the first row. Then the second row comprises of 2 columns, column values 3.4 and 3.5, and so you will provide the values. If it would have been having more than 2 rows, then what will happen? you will provide a comma over here, and then you will provide two values for the column. Okay. Now, how will you find the length of the multidimensional array? Look, if you are inside a loop, suppose in this example, as you are seeing, we have for int r is equal to 0, r is less than mylist dot length r plus plus. This is the row. This loop is iterating for the row, and the inner loop is iterating for the column. So whenever you put one thing you must be clear with over here is that my list, directly the array list, okay, or the array with dot length property will, in two-dimensional case, it will give the number of rows. Again repeat that by providing the name of the array, and then by using the length property of that array will give the rows of that array. And then when we are having my list, this is the array and this is the row mentioned with r, and then if we are putting a point and then providing the length property or getting the length property, it will return what? It will give the length of that row. First of all, the length of the array, that is the number of rows, and then for each row, the length of that row, which is the number of columns. This means that this will result in the number of columns. Okay, so there should be no confusion regarding it. It will be used again and again, and this should be very clear for you. Okay. Now, what are ragged arrays? Ragged arrays in Java are those arrays in which we have different number of columns for each row. Previously, what we had was in multidimensional arrays, the number of columns for each row were same. Suppose we had 5 rows, and for each row we had 4 columns. But in this example, like ragged arrays, what we have is we have different number of columns in each rows, or they may be same in number, but there is no compulsion that each row will have the same number of columns. This is an example, like integer array, double dimensional array mylist is having 1, 2, 3 for the first row, 1, 2 for the second row, and 1 for the third row. Now the number of columns here is 3 in the first row, it's 2 in the second, and 1 in the first. Okay, these are called ragged arrays. Okay, now declaring the reference variable, and suppose we want to use ragged arrays. Okay, then what will we do in ragged arrays is that one thing is for sure, we have different number of or similar number of columns in each row. Then what will you do is you have suppose declared a 3-dimensional scores array, that is a ragged array. Okay, and we want to traverse it, then one thing must be clear, that the length property will return the number of columns for each row. So if we don't know in advance that how many columns will be there for each row, then we can use the length property. It will return for that row the number of columns. So in this case, as we are seeing, that for int I is equal to 0, I is less than scores dot length. This scores dot length, what is it doing? It is, scores is the name of the array, so this scores dot length will return what? It will return the number of rows. If you are providing dot length with the name of the array, it will return the number of rows as discussed earlier. So this will run for 7 times. Okay, then what we are doing is we are making a variable total score, keeping it 0. Then what we are doing is, then we are making a for loop again and providing a variable j, and this j is less than scores I dot length. This scores I dot length, what will it do? It will have the number of columns for score for the row for which I is pointing, and similarly scores I j dot length will have the length of the columns pointed by ij. In that way we will be able to find the number of columns. Okay. Now we already discussed that how variables are kept in memory. The values are stored on the values comprises of the actual data, and it is stored on the stack, and references are stored. References are also kept on the stack, but the values, the whole array is kept on the heap. Okay. Now, if we want to find out how to specify the loops for three-dimensional array, I have already discussed that the number of nested loops or the number of nested for statements will be equal to the dimension of the array. So what we have to do is, you have to first of all traverse to the rows, then you have to traverse for the second dimension, and then for the third dimension. And as you can see in this example, that first of all for rows, then what we have to do is we are traversing for the second dimension, that is given by the rows dot length, and the third dimension by the rows column dot length. Okay, and if this is done by this continuous nested looping, then it will result into the exact element stored in that position of the array, like score I, j, k. Okay, so this will represent a single element stored on these indices. And if you want to sum the whole array, then what we will do is we will keep adding up this to a variable, and then we will print the total score. Okay. So this is all regarding the arrays in Java. Okay, thank you very much, and thank you very much for listening to this video. I hope it would have been informative. Then meet you in the next video. Thank you.